The watchers were full of desire. They looked to one another and said, "Behold, we will choose for ourselves wives from among the children of men, and will beget for ourselves children." The leader of the angels was Shemjaza. He raised his voice and said, "I fear you will not follow through with this, and I alone will bear the weight of our guilt." But the watchers were ready to fall, and to follow their leader. "Let us all swear," they said, "and bind ourselves together by an unbreakable oath, so that none may turn back, and none may stand alone." And so they swore, 200 in number. They bound themselves by curse. They chose defiance. And from the heights of Mount Hermon, the angels fell. And the earth received them. They descended. The ground trembled beneath their feet. The mountains held their breath. The skies fell silent. A shadow turned through the earth. The fallen took wives from among the daughters of men. They taught them things not meant to be taught, from enchantment and war to sorcery and secrets of the heavens. And from their union came giants, creatures of power and pride, born of the union between heaven's fire and earth's dust. These were the Nephilim. They were mighty, feared, worshipped, but their hunger was never satisfied. They devoured the land, turned on men, twisted beasts into monsters, and spread corruption like a plague. And it was because of them that the Lord sent the flood. It had been 7 generations since the day Adam and Eve were driven eastward from Eden, clothed in sorrow and dust. In the days of Jared, son of Mahalalel, son of Kenan, men began to multiply upon the face of the earth. Tribes wandered across valleys and rivers, building cities from stone and forging lineages that stretched far and wide. Daughters were born to them, radiant, graceful, the crown of mortal beauty. But not all who beheld them were sons of the earth. The watchers, heavenly beings appointed to observe and guide, looked down upon mankind. And what began as curiosity became wonder, then longing, then desire, and finally the corruption. The Nephilim had been born, giants of flesh and fire, crowned with unnatural glory. Their feet shook the valleys, their hands bent iron like grass. They stood taller than trees, and men called them gods. But their greatness was a shadow, and the longer they lived, the deeper that shadow spread. And then came the teaching. The watchers did not simply descend in rebellion. They brought with them the light of knowledge, a light twisted from its purpose, torn from the heavens, handed to the corruptible. Azazel became the herald of weaponry, bringing blades, shields, and armor into human hands. From the ore of the earth he drew violence. He revealed how to pierce flesh and conquer tribes. And still more, he taught the ways of adornment, bracelets, ornaments, and cosmetics to paint the face and reshape desire. He unveiled the power of appearance, and mortal hearts, once satisfied with purity, turned to seduction and pride. Amazarach taught the conjurers and root cutters, those who bent the green things of the earth into tools of spellcraft. Armaros taught how to loosen enchantments, undo protections, twist oaths. Barakel gave the knowledge of the stars. Kokabel unveiled the hidden signs of the heavens. Tamiel mapped the rhythms of the skies, and Asradel traced the secrets of the moon. Thus were the mysteries of heaven broken open and cast down like pearls before a world not ready. And there was great wickedness and much fornication, and they sinned, and all their ways were corrupt. The giants grew fierce, ungovernable. At first, they consumed the earth's produce, but soon they turned to the cattle, then the wild beasts, then the birds of the sky, and finally to men. They drank blood, they tore flesh, The earth groaned beneath their weight, and worse still, mankind began to imitate the fallen. No longer did men walk in the ways of the Lord, but in the image of the Watchers and their monstrous sons. They forged weapons in the likeness of Azazel. They practiced spells whispered by Armoros. They adorned their women as temples of deception. Beasts were bred with beasts, species were mixed, sacred boundaries undone. Even animals bore the mark of corruption. And all flesh corrupted its way upon the earth, man and beast, cattle and birds, and all that creeps upon the ground. And God saw. My spirit shall not strive with man forever, for he is also flesh. Yet his days shall be 120 years. In those days, and even after, the Nephilim walked the earth, masterful ones, men of renown. But what renown is there in ruin? And as the blood flowed like rivers, the cries of the slain began to rise. They rose past the mountaintops, through the smoke of pagan altars, into the vaults of heaven. Then the angels of heaven heard. Michael, Gabriel, Serjan, and Urjan looked down and saw the slaughter, the twisted order of the earth. And they said to one another, "The earth has become empty, drained by wickedness. The cries of men rise like thunder to the gates of heaven." And they spoke to the Holy One, the King of all. "O Lord of lords, God of gods, King of kings, see what Azazel has done. He has revealed forbidden things and taught the way of violence. Shemjaza has led them in the sorceries. They have taken wives, defiled themselves, and given birth to these monstrous giants. The whole earth is filled with blood and abomination. The souls of the dead cry out, and their groans rise to you. They cannot escape the wickedness that covers the land." Thus, the heavens, once silent, began to stir. The outcry of the earth had reached the ears of the Most High, and judgment was near. Below, on the face of the earth, terror reigned. The Nephilim, giants of ruin, had claimed the world as their own. Born of angels and mortal women, they were creatures of impossible size and cunning. Their feet crushed valleys, their shadows swallowed whole cities. They became kings, gods in their own image. They devoured all the acquisitions of men, until men could no longer sustain themselves. Driven by hunger, they turned against humanity itself. Men were hunted, their blood was drunk, their bones were scattered, and it did not end with men. They began to sin against birds and beasts and creeping things and fish. Life itself was corrupted, creation bent under their defilement. But worst of all was this: they remade life. The fallen angels, defying every boundary of heaven, mated beasts unnaturally. Donkeys, goats, oxen, and birds, each mingled with another under the curse of miscegenation. 200 donkeys, goats, beasts of the field, for the purpose of corruption. From this perversion came monsters, abominations that bore no name. They were neither man nor beast, but something in between, and they too hungered. They begot giants and monsters. The whole earth was corrupted with their blood, and when even that could not satisfy, the Nephilim turned on one another. Tyrants battled tyrants. Brothers of unnatural birth went to war. They killed many. Blood ran through the hills. Screams echoed in the deserts. Among the giants rose one who called himself the Wild Man, Gilgamesh, son of divine mingling, mighty in war, his arm strong enough to fell mortals and beasts alike. He claimed kingship by force and ruled with a will forged in the fires of the heavens. But even he, the mighty, trembled. "I have made war against them, but I cannot stand. For my enemies dwell in heaven, and they are stronger than I." Beside him, the monster known among men as Humbaba, the terrible one who once guarded the cedar forest near Mount Hermon, where the fallen angels descended. Later, Gilgamesh would defeat Humbaba with his friend Enkidu, The very same Gilgamesh would challenge the gods by rejecting the love of the goddess Ishtar, the goddess who ruled the city of Uruk from the top of the ziggurat temple of Eanna. Ishtar was considered to be the daughter of Enlil, one of the ancient gods of Mesopotamia, or Nana, the moon god who was believed to rule the city of Ur and Haran, cities where the stories of Terah and Abraham would later take place. No one knows exactly where the story of Gilgamesh fits in the timeline of events. Some say that Gilgamesh and Humbaba were part of the Nephilim, who walked the earth after the Great Flood. What is known is that his epic is the most ancient piece of literature in the history of humanity. As it seems, the Nephilim were wandering even then and defiled the earth. Beasts of flame and roar, parts of creation no longer divine, but corrupted and damned. These were no longer stories. These were the sons of the Watchers. Their breath burned, their eyes saw beyond flesh. Their dreams broke the veil, but peace did not come, only dreams. Visions began to haunt the giants, nightmares from the mouth of heaven. They saw a tablet plunged into water, and when it rose, only 3 names remained. They saw a tree torn from the earth, its roots left bare. They saw a garden consumed by fire, and 200 trees destroyed. This vision, said Ohya, one of the Shemjaza sons, is for cursing and sorrow. One by one, their pride began to crack. Mawe, son of the fallen Barakel, was sent beyond the borders of ruin to find Enoch, the man who walked with God, the scribe of righteousness. He flew over deserts, over the bones of empires, until he found him, and the giants pleaded, "Let him tell us what these visions mean." But while giants trembled in dream and dread, the earth itself began to die. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great upon the earth, and that every imagination of his heart was only evil continually. Men imitated their fallen rulers. They forged weapons in the image of Azazel. They adorned themselves with seduction. They gave their daughters to the defiled. They raised idols. They cursed the heavens. Even the line of Seth had nearly perished, scattered by intermarriage and seduced by wonder. The children of the covenant were fading, their voices drowned in a world gone mad. And beneath all, the land groaned. The earth cried out and was filled with unrighteousness and complaint. The trees no longer bore clean fruit. The skies darkened with storms. Even the fish of the sea were twisted, and blood called to blood from the ground. Then came the decree from heaven. "Go," the Lord said to Gabriel, "against the children of fornication, against the sons of the Watchers. Let them destroy one another. Let them fall by their own hands. For their days shall not be long, and as brother turned against brother. As giants devoured giants, as monsters fell in fire and war, the world still stood, but not for long. For one last voice was about to rise, a man called by God, who walked in desolation. Before all judgment, before flood or fire, Enoch was hidden. A righteous man, vanished from among men. None knew where he had gone, nor what had become of him. For he had walked not in shadows, but among angels. His ways were counted among the Watchers, and in his hiddenness, the Holy One summoned him. Enoch, scribe of righteousness, rise. Go to the Watchers of heaven, those who have descended and defiled themselves. Speak to them the decree of the Most High. The sin of the Watchers had risen like smoke before heaven. They had abandoned the heights of their habitation. They had taken wives from among men. Their children were abominations, the Nephilim, terrible and vast. The earth groaned beneath their weight. And so Enoch was sent. He descended to the place where they wept, on the shadowed slopes of Mount Hermon, near the waters of Dan. The Watchers sat in silence, veiled in shame. Their eyes could not rise to heaven. And when Enoch appeared, fear seized them. To Azazel he said, You shall have no peace. Condemnation is your inheritance. Mercy shall not reach you, for you have taught rebellion and violence to the sons of men. Then he spoke to all. Your petition shall not be granted. The days of forgiveness are closed. You will not ascend again. Your sons shall perish before your eyes. Your sins are sealed. And Enoch fell into sleep by the river. A dream overtook him, the fire and fog of heaven's halls. Stars drove him upward. Winds gave him wings. He passed walls of crystal lit with tongues of flame, until he came to the throne of the Majestic One. No flesh could look upon his face. No angel dared approach. Fire wrapped him like garments. A voice like rushing waters said, Enoch, just man, fear not. Speak now to the watchers. You were spiritual, eternal, and pure. But you became flesh. You lusted for blood and bore corruption. For this you are bound. Your children, born of flesh and fire, shall be spirits of ruin. They shall become the wandering demons of the earth, bringing sorrow but finding no rest. He was shown the heavenly tablets, and he read. He saw the deeds of all men, their rising and their ruin, the festivals of light, the sacred calendar of the stars. And he wept, and he blessed the Lord of patience and of justice. Then Enoch returned, and the watchers listened as he spoke. He told them, the verdict is sealed. He told his son Methuselah, preserve these writings. He recorded wisdom for generations unborn. Happy the man in whom no record of iniquity is written, he said. And then came the vision, a parable in beasts and bulls. The great stars fell to earth. The sons of heaven descended like fire, and they mounted the daughters of men. And beasts came forth, elephants and camels and monstrous things. Bulls, the people of earth, trembled. The giants ruled, the earth bled, the heavens watched. Then came four, radiant as dawn. One took Enoch, one bound Azazel, one opened the abyss, one drew his sword. Judgment had begun. Enoch saw a great white bull become a man, and he built an ark. He saw the floodgates open. He saw all life swept away, but the vessel floated, and a remnant was saved. He saw the unfolding of generations, white bulls, red bulls, wild beasts, wolves devouring sheep, prophets rising, nations falling, the sheep crying out, and then the Lord of the sheep descended. He stood between them and the wolves. He split the sea, he led the flock through. He destroyed their enemies in the deep. And a tower rose, a house of light, a shepherd crowned. But again the sheep strayed. Another came, a ram, a warrior. He led them back. He opened their eyes. He battled wolves and beasts. And the Lord built a new house among them. Then the book was opened, and every deed was read. The angels judged, the watchers cast into flame, the shepherds condemned, and the sheep who had betrayed justice were burned. A new house replaced the old. The white bull returned, and all creation bowed before the righteous. And Enoch saw it all, and he awoke, and he wept. All shall come to pass, he said. Blessed be the Lord of justice. And the prophet returned to his people, carrying the voice of the end, before the rain had fallen. The earth was no longer what the Creator had spoken into being. It groaned beneath twisted roots and broken covenants. The rivers, once lifelines, now ran dark. The breath of men, once made in the image of God, now poured out blasphemy, violence, and blood. And Yahweh looked upon the earth, and behold, it was ruined, for all flesh had corrupted its ways upon the earth. The heavens trembled, the holy ones stood silent. The Lord Most High, He who sees all, spoke, and He called forth His archangels. To Archangel, messenger of secrets, He said, Go to the son of Lamech, speak in my name to Noah, hide thyself, for the waters of the deluge shall soon come, and every living thing upon the earth shall be swept away. Instruct him, for he is chosen. His seed shall remain when all else is undone. To Raphael, the judge of healing, the the Lord thundered, "Take Azazel, the master of corruption, and bind him hand and foot. Cast him into the pit of Dudael. Heap upon him jagged stones. Cover his face in shadow. Let him see no light until the day of the great judgment, when he shall be thrown into the flame." And then he said, "Announce the healing of the earth. Let all creation know. I will not allow the mysteries of the fallen to destroy my image in man. Not all will be swept away." To Gabriel, the might of fire, the order was sharp and final. "Go to the bastards and the sons of fornication. Stir them to battle. Let the giants destroy each other. Let blood call out to blood until none remain. They will cry out to you, but their fathers will not save them. Though they imagine themselves as gods, their days will not reach 500 years. To Michael, the captain of hosts, God gave judgment. Announce to Shemjaza and all the watchers, they shall be bound. Their sons shall be slaughtered. Their lovers shall perish. When they have witnessed the destruction of their lineage, bind them beneath the hills of the earth. There they shall remain 70 generations, until the great day of judgment, when the abyss of fire shall claim them." Then the prophet saw a deep valley filled with burning fire. Chains of immense weight were forged there, iron that glowed like the sun. And the angel of peace said, "These chains are prepared for the host of Azazel. Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Phanuel, on that great day, shall cast them into the oven of burning fire. For they have submitted to Satan, and they have led the sons of men astray." And so it was fulfilled. The mighty were shackled. The stars above wept in silence as the gates of heaven were sealed against them. The angels who kept not their first estate, but abandoned their proper dwelling, he has bound in chains beneath the gloom, to await the judgment of the great day. For if God spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to the abyss and delivered them into chains of darkness, then know that his justice will not sleep. Their pride had been their curse, their offspring, their grief, their rebellion, their chain. The order had been given. The earth would be purged. But one man and his family would be spared. "7 generations had passed since Adam's exile, and the earth had filled with kings and beasts and corrupted stars. But in the midst of ruin, a name was spoken in heaven: Noah. Noah found grace in the eyes of Yahweh. He was righteous, flawless in his generations, and he walked with God. While the cities burned incense to idols, and the Nephilim hunted men like cattle, one man knelt by altars of stone and raised no weapon but prayer. In Noah, faith endured like an ember buried deep beneath ash. But Noah saw what was coming. He stood upon the trembling ground and lifted his voice to the heavens. 'Hear me, hear me, hear me,' he cried, seeking his ancestor Enoch. 'Why is the earth weary? Why does it groan beneath our feet? Must I too be swept away?' And Enoch came, a whisper out of time, because they have known the secrets of the angels, because they have wrought sorcery, bloodshed, and craft. The end has come, the judgment is sealed." Noah's soul trembled, but his spirit stood firm. Then the word of the Lord came to him, not in thunder, but with clear command. "Make for yourself an ark of gopher wood. Shelter it within and without, 300 cubits in length, 50 in breadth, and 30 in height. For I shall bring a deluge upon the earth. But with you I establish my covenant." And Noah obeyed, without argument, without delay. Each beam was fastened in reverence. Each plank was a prophecy. And God declared, "Your portion has ascended to me, a portion without blame, of love and rectitude. Out of this ark the seed of life shall be preserved." Still, the world mocked him. Giants laughed from their high towers. Men cursed him from the roadsides. But Noah kept building. He dreamed of trembling waters and valleys of fire. He saw angels imprisoned beneath molten mountains, where rivers of sulfur ran red with judgment. This shall be the valley of the condemned, Enoch had shown him, where the watchers shall burn, and the kings of the earth shall see but still not believe. Then came the reckoning of names. Enoch revealed to Noah the scrolls, the list of the fallen: Shemjaza, Azazel, Armoros, Gabriel. Each one accounted, each judged not only for their deeds, but for the secrets they gave. They taught war, they taught seduction, they taught death. They have made themselves as gods, but they shall be as ashes. And yet, amid this roll of ruin, one covenant stood firm. You, Noah, shall be preserved. Your sons will walk again upon the dry earth. From your seed shall spring the fountain of the just. The ark was finished, silent, massive, holy, not a fortress, but a cradle. Not a weapon, but a promise. God had spoken to the winds, the waters, and the winged ones. The angels of the deep were told to wait, but the hour was near. Noah gathered the creatures, 2 by 2. He stored food for every breath of life. He waited in silence, alone in obedience, surrounded by mockers and the dying. And Noah did all that Yahweh commanded him. He did just so. He stepped inside the ark. The door stood open, the sky still silent, but the air had changed. The heavens had begun to bend. The voice of judgment was rising. The last light was now enclosed in wood, and above it, the flood drew near. The world was full of blood, full of sin, full of sorrow. And heaven could no longer bear its sound. Then the voice of the Lord came to Noah, son of Lamech, righteous in his generations, unblemished in the midst of defilement. Come, you and all your household, into the ark, for I have seen you as righteous before me in this generation. Noah obeyed, and for 7 days the door stood open. The clean beasts entered 7 by 7. The unclean 2 by 2. Flyers of the heavens, crawlers of the dust, beasts wild and tamed. All that drew breath and bore seed came at the command of the unseen spirit. And on the 17th day of the 2nd month, as twilight fell, Yahweh shut the door. Then the sky cracked, and the fountains of the great deep, ancient, sealed, unseen since the first day, burst open. Rivers of water gushed from beneath the mountains. Thunder rode across the heavens. All the repositories of water were opened, those above and those beneath. Rain fell, not as blessing, but as judgment. The masculine waters of heaven embraced the feminine waters of the earth, and together they became the grave of the world. Giants rose to flee. They roared against the storm, climbed mountains, sought sorcery, cried to the stars. But their cries returned to them like echoes in a tomb. The waters rose higher still. The waters prevailed over the earth, 15 cubits above the mountains. The children of fornication shall perish. Let them destroy one another by the sword. Some drowned, others tore each other apart in madness. Their voices were swallowed by thunder, and not one remained. In the abyss, the watchers screamed. Chained beneath the hills, sealed in flaming valley of iron and silver and burning sulfur. They felt the trembling of the earth. This valley burns beneath the earth, and through it flow rivers of fire. Azazel, Shemyaza, Raphael, Barakel. 21 chiefs of heaven's rebellion condemned, enshrouded in fire, unable to rise, unable to escape. And their judgment, terrible and eternal, was seen by the angels of punishment who stood by the gates of the deep, waiting. Meanwhile, within the ark, Noah waited. He heard the shrieks of beasts, the sobbing of men, the groaning of the drowned world, and he held his family close in the dark. All flesh that moved on the earth perished. Everything with the breath of life died. Wickedness was no more. The cities of giants gone. The altars of sorcery washed away. The cries of the proud silenced. Only the ark floated gently atop the grave of the old world. The waters prevailed upon the earth for 150 days. But this was not only judgment, it was a reset. And I will preserve it, said the Lord to Noah, for out of it will come the seed of life. And I will scatter those who dwell with you over the face of the earth, and your seed will be blessed. And they shall build again, but never forget. For what had come upon the world was not merely a flood, but a reckoning, a death of the unnatural, a silencing of blasphemy, a fire that came in the form of water. And in the heavens, the angels trembled. Who can endure such a judgment? Cried Michael. For they acted as if they were gods, and the Lord of spirits has passed judgment that shall not end. And the names of the fallen were written in the book of judgment. Shemyaza, Azazel, Gabriel, Penemu, Castaja, names now etched, not in glory but in ruin. They shall be bound with chains, imprisoned in the place of destruction. Their works shall disappear from the face of the earth. And above the waters, drifting in silence, the ark endured, not by the strength of its beams, but by the hand of the Most High. But God remembered Noah, and the beasts, and the birds, and all who huddled within the hollowed belly of the ark. And he sent a wind, ancient and holy, to pass over the earth. The waters withdrew. The abyss held its breath. The windows of heaven closed like silent gates. The flood receded, not with rage, but with long sorrow. The judgment was complete, but the mourning had only begun. Days passed, then weeks, then months. The waters went and returned, and still Noah waited, until, in the 7th month, on the 27th day, the ark came to rest, rocked gently into the spine of Mount Ararat. There the remnant of creation was held aloft, suspended between the old world and the new. The mountaintops appeared like the bones of a drowned earth. Then Noah opened a window. A raven was sent to test the sky. A dove followed, but returned with weary wings and no resting place. 7 days passed. The dove was sent again. At twilight, it returned, and in its beak, an olive leaf. Life had touched the earth again, and after 7 more days, the dove did not return. The earth was ready. In the 601st year of Noah's life, on the 1st day of the 1st month, the veil was pulled back. He removed the covering of the ark and saw the soil again. It had drunk deeply of wrath, but now it was dry, purged, but not healed. Then came the voice of the Lord, "Come forth from the ark, you and your sons' wives. Bring out the beasts and birds and every creeping thing, that they may swarm upon the earth, and be fruitful, and increase." And Noah obeyed, and all living things stepped once more upon the land. Then Noah built an altar. There, between the storm and the silence, he placed his offering. From every clean beast and bird he brought a sacrifice, not of law, but of gratitude. The smoke rose to heaven like a sigh, and the Lord smelled the offering, and his heart was moved. Never again will I curse the ground for man's sake, though his heart is evil from youth. While earth remains, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night, shall not cease. A new beginning was sealed in light. God stretched a bow across the clouds, not of war, but of peace. A rainbow, bent in mercy, arched above the earth. This is the sign of the covenant I make between me and you and every living creature. Never again shall the waters become a flood to destroy all flesh. But beneath that promise, the ground still remembered. The bones of giants remained buried. The shadow of the watchers had fled, but had not perished. Noah saw it, and he warned his sons. He taught them laws and ordinances and judgments that he had received. He commanded them, honor your Creator, love one another, cover your shame, flee fornication and all uncleanness. Do not defile the image of God within you. And so Noah became not just a survivor, but a priest, a preacher, and a patriarch of the new world. From his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the nations would rise, cities would be built, kings would reign. But in visions still to come, the prophet Enoch saw deeper. In the 10th week, judgment shall fall upon the watchers. The old heaven shall pass away. A new one will shine sevenfold, and the age of righteousness shall begin. The flood had ended. The earth was reborn. But the silence that followed was not empty. It was watchful. A covenant hung in the heavens. A seed of rebellion slept beneath the soil. And far off, across forgotten mountains, the wind still carried whispers of what had been. Thus ends the age of the giants, and thus begins the long shadow of remembrance.